I caught it.
Hey, welcome to the Montana Sportscast podcast version 2.0. We are getting ready to roll here. Bob Ritterod sipping coffee. Paul Panisko here as well. Bobby, how are you, my man?
I'm doing good. Doing
Okay.
good. Big weekend Frontier Conference. This first weekend is always exciting. Play a month ahead of everybody else, the other games, and some stuff I expected, some stuff I didn't expect. Paul.
Yeah, I am on that same page. It was a little bit crazy and rather interesting to look into. So I'm excited to get it started, Bobby. As like I say, the basketball hoops officially rolling. Where would you like to start, my friend?
Let's start with the women's side of
Okay.
things. Let's do them first today, and just the Thursday night it was Rocky at Tech and Northern at Providence and Western at Carroll, and I think very good games. I tried to watch a little bit of all three of them a little bit. The audio wasn't very good on that Tech game, but I muttered my way through it.
Thanks. Great, appreciate that. That was real nice of you. Real kind of you.
No, I was, I kind of thought these games kind of went the way I thought they would go, I
Okay.
guess, on Thursday. As far as the women's side goes, you saw Rocky Tech. What's your thoughts on those two teams?
I was excited to see. I was looking forward to seeing Rocky. Everything I'd been told was they were big. They are big. I thought they played well, and I shouldn't say well. Neither team, Tech or Rocky, wanted to score at all in the first half. Shooting percentages were real low. Neither team could get any real balance going, and then they kind of got going in the second half, and I thought Rocky played well. They came out and Chloe Thatcher leading the charge a little bit, and I thought Tech did some good things in that first game as well. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think that one went the way it was expected to go. Rocky getting that win on the women's side. You're looking at Leckvold had 14 points. I thought Morgan Baird off the bench played really well. Baird finished with 13 on the other side. Aubrey Rademacher, the young freshman from Montana Tech up from the Flathead Valley, played well. She got 13 points for Tech. Just a kind of a rough first half for both teams. I think both coaches would like to flush that first 20 minutes down, but kind of got going a little bit better in the second half.
Yeah, they kind of took basketball back 30 years in that first half.
Yeah, they just couldn't get anything going. Nothing
it was,
at all.
It was just maybe some defense, maybe some jitters, some nerves. I think probably more nerves than anything. But there was some pretty good defense, I think, played by these two teams. I think that's kind of going to be their staple throughout the season with these two teams. I know Rocky's always been that way. I think Coach Graham's going to instill defense on Tech women, and
Yep.
I just think that's going to be huge. As far as rebounding goes in there, Detman had 8 and Rooney was 7. Urick had 7 boards as well in that ball game, and Thatcher had 4 assists and Rice had 4 assists respectively for each team. But both teams, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, Paul. Just poor shooting that first half.
Yeah, and Rocky came in with a game plan. They're there to take Danny Urick out of the ball game. They did a really nice job keeping her from any clean looks at all. And also, Tavia Rooney had a tough day. In her opener, just a tough opener for Tech's offense, if you will. Like you say, I think their defense played pretty well. But if Tech is going to win, they need points out of Danny Urick and they need Tavia Rooney to be big. Rocky eliminated both of those and getting a nice win in the opener.
All right, let's move on. Northern Providence. Providence getting that win by 7, 66-59, and that one. You look at score wise, it was actually pretty close. Providence outscoring them by 11 in that second quarter, and then Northern coming back and outscoring Providence by 8 in the final period. So, actually the scoring per quarter was pretty equal in this game all the way through.
Yeah, it felt like there were a few runs in this ball game by looking at that. And, McCulloch, the new player for Northern for Coach Mowat, had a huge ball game, 22 points, 6 of 14 from the floor. 4 rebounds, a couple assists as well. She is certainly going to be a big factor. But then the other side for Northern in the loss, some things to look forward to. They had a couple players in double digits off the bench, which feels like kind of a rarity here in the early part of the Frontier Conference season. It feels like most teams were pretty thin as far as their bench use early. So a couple players there. On the other side, Reed Hazard, another big one, 18 points for Providence. She went 7 of 15 from the floor. Both coaches, both teams shooting in the high 30% area. Northern at 36%. On the other side for Providence, at 38%. Turnovers 12 each, so that's kind of a scratch. And then rebounding, I didn't look at big difference in rebounding. Providence 41 total rebounds in that, 20 of those offensive boards. There's your 7 points easy right there, for goodness sake. 20 offensive boards is a monster mark for Providence in a win.
Yeah, and Dixon, well, they had Dixon 8, Rieger 7, and Otis with 7 boards in that one.
Wow.
But and I can see where they could do that. Dixon really played well down here on Saturday night and rebounded real well. So I think that's probably what you're going to see there between those two teams. I thought this was going to be a battle, from the get-go. We kind of talked about it. I think the big game is yet to come in the next one we talk about. But both these teams kind of set a tone for where they're going to go the rest of the season, I think.
I think I was really interested to see how they both performed with what was graduated. There's certainly a lot of familiar faces gone out of both programs. So this was a game that I was kind of very interested to see who was on the floor, what kind of bench was possessed by both. We'll see. I think that was a good performance out of both, and Providence getting a nice win at home, and certainly a really good play out of his returners. He brings back some names that have been around for a little while, and his ladies, his returners, his leadership really played a big factor in that win.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's 4 or 5 grad students on that roster. Not sure. So, and they've definitely been playing for five years anyway, maybe even 6 with the COVID. I don't know. I can't keep track of that anymore with the COVID year in there. But big win for them there at home. And let's move on to Western at Carroll. And all the home teams won on that first. I guess Tech. Excuse me. Providence and Carroll were both at home, and Carroll getting that win 72-61, the final in that one. Paul, I kind of watched the end of that game, and it was a lot closer than, from what I saw anyway, in that fourth period than what this final score shows.
Yeah, we were doing the Tech game, and we had the other games up, just kind of watching the score stream so that we could keep people updated. And I agree, this was one that it looks like 11 points on paper. That's where it finished, but it certainly felt like it was single digits and kind of a possession v possession there for the end of it. But you look at it. I mean, Carroll has to be the team to beat coming in. I mean, they have done such a nice job. Coach just continues to get great recruits, and the ladies play hard. Coming into this season, I think they had to be the team to beat. Certainly have been, at the top of the pile here the last couple of years. And you look at some names like Hilborn back, Swanek back. You get your post back as well in Jamie Pickens. They bring an awful lot back this year, and they have to be the team to beat. But Western, Coach Keller had a lot of really good talent last year, but his bench depth was not very good. He was playing with, it felt like 6 or 7 gals at the end of the year last year. So a little bit deeper bench for him this year. They have to be a team that people are looking at, especially with the return of Brindley Fitzgerald. This was one I think everybody kind of had circled as the game of the week, and it looks like it ended up being a pretty fantastic ball game from start to finish, Bobby.
Yeah. Coach Foley there, not Coach Keller, though.
Oh, did I say Keller? I apologize. Coach Foley. Sorry.
Yeah, well, we'll save you. Try to save you a text message from
Well, yeah, I was
Wooly
gonna say,
there.
hold on, let's see if Willie's gonna text me here real quick. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but
I think both these programs are I think both really good and both going to be towards the top, if not the top of the pile by the end of this. So it was certainly a good jumping off point for both programs.
well, yeah, you talk about the returners coming back for Carol and Hilborn just had a all-star night. She had 25 points, and boy, I saw her make. I think she made three threes in a row there on 3 trips down the floor there that one time. And but you look at the other side of that scoring, Paul. I think you might have the scoring in front of you. Swanik didn't score much, and that kind of
Yeah.
tells me that Woolley probably keyed on her, and Hilborn was a little bit freer there to possibly get some shots. But
And I, you,
kudos to Carol for getting her the ball.
yep. Yeah. And the games that I have done when Hilborn's been on the floor, she played the entire 40 minutes of this contest. She's always felt like a real momentum driven player, so that when she is hot, get her the ball. I mean, she feels like she feeds on it. Or the other side of that as well, if players have kind of gotten in her head a little bit and she allows that energy to go in a different direction, it has hurt her on the floor. And she certainly took advantage of it. She went off 10 of 18 from the floor, 3 of 7 from the 3-point line, 6 assists as well, 25 points. That's a big day for Camden Hilborn. And I know that, coach was excited to get her back, for a 6th year this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And you throw Keller in there with those other names you mentioned. That's a pretty good top four to look at.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you have like Maddie Garrett's coming off the bench for Carroll. She had 11 points, 7 rebounds off the bench. I think most coaches will take that to the bank any day of the week, and you can expect that. Their bench is big with Wilkinson coming off the bench as well. Carroll is going to be big. They're going to be physical, and they're going to try and pound the ball inside, but also have the guards to just flat knock it down.
Yeah, yeah. And I think on the other side of that, Western. You got Mack and Fitzgerald. I think those are a couple pretty good players to Coach Woolley can work around the rest of the season. They led the scoring in this contest. Mack with 15, Fitzgerald with 14. Fitzgerald had 7 boards to go along with that. And I hate to say this, kind of an off night for her though.
I would assume that they beat the tar out of her. I mean, if you're gonna beat Western, you've got to take care of number 3. I mean, Brindley Fitzgerald just might be the cream of this conference. It'll be a good argument down the line, but I would have to assume that Carroll did everything in their power to deny her touches. 14.7 rebounds for Fitzgerald. Like I say, not exactly a star-studded day, but I bet you if you go back and watch that video, I bet you they beat the tar out of Brindley Fitzgerald when she got the ball on the block.
Yeah, I don't have to agree with you there. I'm going to throw a stat up here, the conference leaders, maybe, if I get this figured out. I guess I won't.
I want to see if I can. There we go.
There you go.
There we go.
I guess you're in charge now. You're in control, man.
That is scary.
There we go. We're going to make it a little bit bigger. But Fitzgerald kind of leading the way there, scoring almost 20 points a game and almost 8 rebounds per game. I think that's what she's going to have to average, Paul, pretty much throughout the season. And I think she's more than capable of doing that too. I really do. She's a pretty tough kid.
She's just dominant. She's so good. She plays smart. She has great hands. She can shoot from, 22 feet in. I think she's a really special player. And she gets a little help around her. Like I say, they had 4 ladies scoring double digits. Not a whole lot of help off the bench. We'll see how those numbers change, as the season progresses and Coach Woolley continues to try and work some fresh bodies in.
All right. Should we jump into Saturday night?
Let's do it.
All right. Providence was at Rocky, Tech was at Western, and Carroll was at Northern.
Let's do you want to just stick with Western? Western went home.
Sure.
Tech was there. Tech went on the road, and in the first game we talked about Rocky doing a really nice job of taking care of Tavia Rooney. Tavia Rooney came unglued on Saturday,
Yeah.
played a really good ball game at Western. Rooney, 7 to 12 from the floor. She ended up with 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 23 points, 3 block shots. Tavia Rooney had a really good bounce back game against Western. But that said, Brindley Fitzgerald went off. She did what Brindley does. Fitzgerald went 8 of 19 from the floor, 8 rebounds, had a couple steals, 26 points. In just a monster game down on the block between those two, and Western getting a nice win, 73 to 67. I don't know what it is. Tech historically has played pretty well in Dillon, and this week kind of the same. Tech jumped out to an early lead, led 20 to 10 after 10 minutes. Western had a huge second quarter. They shot over 60% in the second quarter and really kind of came unglued there. But it was it really looked like a great ball game. Western getting the win, 73 to 67. But I think that puts Western in a good spot, 1-1 in conference. Tech at 0-2. But I think that is a pretty good. I think Tech looks at those first 2 games and goes, okay, we're okay. We're playing with people, especially against Western. You played a great game in Dillon. You have a month now to go to Arizona, play some games. You go to Missoula here in a couple days to take on the Grizz. I think Tech has a lot to build on off of that. And I think Western the same on their side. You go 1-1, you take a tough loss at Carroll, you get a good win at home. I think that was a good ball game between Tech and Western down to Dillon.
Yeah, I think, like you said, that big second quarter for Western was definitely the difference in that ball game. And, I think that Tech is probably going to see that, with Coach Graham coming in there in his first year. And I think it's more of an adjustment thing. These veteran coaches, we got pretty good coaches in the Frontier Conference, Paul.
Yes.
And
yeah.
he's gonna struggle a little bit, and he'll get it figured out. I think the world of the young man, but you got to make some adjustments, and I think that's where he's gonna have to learn how to do that more so than he did in high school for sure.
I agree with that. And the other side is they have to learn how to win. We've all seen that program. He and I were talking, and I was like, well, go talk to Coach Adam Hyatt and get his input on his first year and what he had to do to install, kind of instill the thought process to be able to win. I mean, it's a long, arduous journey, and it's not easy. And obviously wins in this conference are going to be really hard to come by anyway. So. It's going to be an uphill climb, but I think that game on Saturday was a good one for Tech, even in a loss. I think they have a lot to be happy about and a lot to build on moving forward.
Yeah. Yep. How about Carroll and Northern? Carroll at Northern, they get to win 68 to 49. I actually thought this game would be a little closer.
That's another one where I really have an incredible amount of respect for both coaches. Coach Moe is I consider one of my great friends, and I don't know what it is. Carroll's had his number for a couple of years, and I'm not sure if it's a matchup issue or what it is, but Carroll has had Northern's number for a little bit, and to go into the Armory and win. It kind of in resounding fashion is a great win for Carroll, to hold Northern to, single digit scoring in both the third and fourth quarter. I think that's a big deal. They give them 9 points in the third quarter, 8 points in the fourth quarter is all, and kind of putting on a defensive effort in front of a crowd that's used to defensive efforts out of MSU Northern. That's a big win for Carroll to head up to Havre and kind of dominate like they did.
Yeah, and Keller had a huge night going back to Havre, playing in front of the hometown fans. 24 points in that one. Pickens, Paul, had a double-double, 14 points, 12 boards in that ball game. So, just that's the thing with Carroll. I just think, they have the weapons.
Yep.
4 or 5 deep, and I think that there's a lot of times that those we kind of look at it here with Rooney and Fitzgerald on the scoreboard. They kind of wipe each other out, 26 and 23 points. So then you go to the next person and see how they score, but that third and fourth person in the scoring column are the ones that is the advantage I think that Carroll's going to have over a lot of teams in the conference this year, is because they have that fourth and fifth player that can score pretty well.
And I would hazard a guess and think that there are going to be very few games that Carroll is outscored on the bench. I think the Carroll women are incredibly deep. They don't miss much coming off the bench, and I think they will generally outscore basically everyone just because of their bench depth and their bench talent. I think they're incredibly good, and I think that is one of the real aces in the hole that the Carroll women have over the rest of the conference right now that I've seen.
Yeah, for sure. But just a great win for Carroll, I think, going up there and getting that win. And as I said, Pickens with that double. Providence at Rocky. Well, I was a little nervous at the end. I'll be honest with you. Rocky had, I think, had a 14-point lead in that thing in the fourth quarter there, and got down to Providence actually took the lead at towards the end of that ball game.
Wow, yeah, and Providence is one of those that historically it feels like Coach Himmelberger's teams. If you give them any kind of life, they're one that can grab it and go. They've always had shooters. It doesn't matter how far we go back. He's always had those shooters that, again, grab momentum and can just flat out put points up. And that's a great example of that. You look at Maddie Dixon, ends up 3 for 5 from the 3-point line. She's 18 of 14 from the floor, 22 points and 8 rebounds. That's a great day at the office for Maddie Dixon and Providence. But that's another one. You look, we are focusing on the bench a little bit. It feels like you look at Providence, no points off of their bench. They're only scoring coming from their starting 5 in this ball game.
Well, Rocky wasn't too much better in that game, was it? Were they, Paul?
No, not really. Let's see here. There looks like reserves, 4 points off the bench is all for Rocky.
Yeah.
So, not a whole lot of difference there either.
Yeah. Morgan Baird, she just couldn't get going, and kind of going up against Otis a little bit there too. I think she might have been intimidated a little bit, just the size of Otis. But this game was got pretty close at the end, and as I said, Providence taking that lead. Thatcher leading the way for the Bears with 17. Detman had 16, and as far as rebounding goes, Dixon and Harn had 8 boards apiece, and Detman and Dominique Stevens with 7 boards apiece. So
that's a tough, for Providence. You out rebound Rocky 39-25. You have 14 more rebounds, and you fall by 2. 9 of those were offensive rebounds. You normally don't see that big of a number in the negative for a team that loses.
No, it. And I think the key for Rocky in that game was that Leckvold took Harn out of the game. I mean, I think they each ended up with 3 points, so it's kind of a wash there. But Harn she just couldn't get anything going the entire ball game.
Because I was glad to see
that basket that she did score. I think was late in the fourth quarter.
Okay. Was good to see Chloe Thatcher's name there with 17 points. She went down with what looked like a pretty significant ankle injury at Tech. Did come in at the end, but you know how those go. Sometimes the swelling and that'll set in later on. And I was hoping that she was going to be able to play, and it looks like she was fine after rolling her ankle here in Butte going back to last week.
Yeah, and that's another thing that comes into play in the Frontier Conference. It's especially the women's side. Well, both men and women, very physical contest, physical teams, and boy, that old injury bug, middle end of the season can be a blow to any one of these teams.
Yeah, and then again, it rolls into how good is your bench. If you lose a guard or a post, how does it influence you moving forward? So, it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Hopefully we don't have to worry about injuries and this thing will just play through and life will be good.
There you go. That sounds good.
My therapy's working, Bob.
All right. How about the men?
All right, let's go. So we talked about, for me, the women's side, as you mentioned, there were some things that we expected and some things we didn't expect. The women's, I thought, had a lot of the stuff that was expected. The men's side was the stuff that I was like, wait a second.
Whoa.
The entire weekend, all the games on Thursday, all the games on Saturday, nobody won on the road.
Nope.
And I assume it's happened, but for recent memory, I can't remember that happening. I don't remember it.
I
I mean,
don't.
that's
I guess I
the
really
idea.
haven't paid attention, Paul. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's just the idea that everybody won at home, and we always talk about how important it is to win at home, and you try and split on the road. Winning on the road is going to
yeah,
be crazy hard. I mean, and
yeah,
it was a big weekend. Home team shot lights out across the board on the men's side. I mean, most home wins were shooting around the 60% mark, or at least in the 50% mark. And you're not going to knock off too many teams that shoot that well at their place.
no, not at all. Well, I'll let you jump in here first with Rocky and Tech. Rocky at Tech Thursday night.
And there you go. Tech just came out and shot the ball. You know, the first 10
Yeah,
minutes of the first half was a pretty good ball game. And then Tech went on a 12-0 run. And that was it. I mean, Rocky was just never able to recover. They made a couple moves, especially right there at the beginning of the second half. They put the pedal to the floor a little bit, was able to go on a little bit of a run to try and claw back. And then Tech just kind of shut it down, to be completely honest. It was a good ball game. And, Tech's defensive pressure was able to kind of shut them down a little bit. And then they just kind of rolled off. You know, Caleb Bellich got going in the second half. He ended up with 18 points. Asa Williams with 13 points. Decons with 13. Michael Ewer with 14. Ewer had a nice ball game. Tech's this is one where Tech's bench is really good. They're really deep. They go 9-10 deep, and they really don't miss much. It was a strong ball game by Tech. And again, that initial run just put it out of reach for Rocky. And Rocky, you're looking at a guy. I love Hart. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's his style of play or what it is, but I'll tell you, I love watching Nick Hart play the game. I thought Hart played extremely hard early, and then Tech took him out of the equation. Jesse Owens got going. He ended up with 13 points. Robinson with 10. It just was one of those that once it got away, you just never felt like there was a real chance for Rocky to get back. And it felt like both teams almost, you don't want to say went into cruise control, but kind of went into cruise control as it kind of finished as Tech wins at 82-59.
Yeah, in that second half, Tech 45-41 for Rocky. So your second half, pretty close contest.
Yeah, truly. And like I say, Rocky went on a nice little run there to get it started. I mean, it was flirting with a 30-point lead there at one point, and Rocky got after it. They got the guys going, and it felt like if I remember, Bradford kind of got the heat started a little bit. Santa Steven got a couple shots to drop. They turned the heat back up a little bit, and Tech was able to kind of cool them back down and kind of coast into the finish line with it. But there were a few moments there in the second half where Rocky got it started.
Yeah. Northern at Providence, and I kind of gave Coach Keller a bad time. I says, "What do you got to do? Padding your players' stats, playing 2 overtimes here, or what?" But two overtime game. Providence gets the win, 82-77, and we talked about this being a good one, and it definitely was.
Yeah, these are when you talk about the level of coaching in this conference. I mean, these are two guys you have to start to look at. I mean, these guys have seen it all. I mean, there's no way that you're going to surprise either of them. They both have just been. I guess I'm calling them both old, is what I'm doing, aren't I? But they have been around. They've seen it all. I mean, the amount of. I mean, we have a national championship between the two. We have national semifinalists, obviously with Coach Keller and the incredible work he had done at Western. These two guys have just elevated the level in the Frontier Conference in a big way, and we owe them a ton. And I would love to be a fly in the room when they're coaching against each other, because I think the respect is so high. This was an interesting one. I mean, Northern had a big lead. I mean, they were up.
Yeah.
Gosh, what was it? It was like a 19-point lead at one point in the second half, and Providence came storming back, and just a really good contest. And both teams obviously had to go to their bench a lot, double overtime, and Providence is able to squeak one out in double overtime at home.
Yeah, and I talked to Coach Keller Saturday night when they were here at Rocky, and he said that they had a couple chances to win it. I think the way he talked at the end of regulation and also uh, at the end of the first overtime, he said, we had chances to win it, we couldn't do it.
And only 6 points each in the first overtime period. So you'd have to assume, they both coaches are probably kicking themselves a little bit. With only 6 points each way, that's nothing. I mean, even if it's
Yeah.
a 6-0 run one way to start, I mean, that's the idea of getting a couple buckets to fall. You can win that thing in the first overtime, but it does go to double overtime, and Providence gets a really nice win at home, and contribution from everyone. Kenny Curtis gets 29 points. That's a monster game from him. A lot of guys in double digits. Coach Keller goes 3 guys deep. Currington with 4. Jackson Essery coming off the bench with 4 points as well for Providence. On the other side, Northern, 5 guys in double digits. And, Dalton gets 14 points. Martinez gets 14 points. Anderson with 10. Keltner. Jesse Keltner is another guy I just love to watch. He's, he always feels a little undersized, plays real strong, real hard in the block. Good game for him. 12 points, 10 rebounds for his lights in that loss in Great Falls.
Yeah, for Northern, you got Anderson and Keltner both with double-doubles, and Providence Olson had a double-double on there as well. But yeah, Curtis he might be quicker than you were, Paul. He's a quick one. Yeah, I don't know. I've been doing this a few years, and he might be the quickest guard I've seen in the Frontier.
Really?
Yeah, he is.
That's saying something.
He is pretty
especially
quick,
considering the guards that Coach Keller has coached previously.
Yeah, he is. He is pretty quick. He's. I just don't think I could keep up with him anymore. Western and Carroll.
Where did you think this one was going to be at?
Well, it ended the way I thought it would end.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie about that, but I was probably would have put another 8 points on it for Carroll. Yeah, I thought it would be. I thought it would be an 18, 20 point ball game for Carroll at home.
I'm probably with you on that. I think Coach Larson and the Bulldogs are the team that made everybody kind of go, we've talked about them the last couple of years going, hey, watch out. Western's good. Western can beat anybody. And I think this weekend they have kind of put their stamp on, guess what? There's a lot of talk with Carroll and Tech at the top of this thing, but Western is as much of the argument. And obviously everybody is as much of the argument right now. But I think Western had a good weekend of kind of self-identifying themselves as one of the powers right now.
Oh yeah, and I told Coach Larson, I think it was last year, I said, I'm impressed with what you've done with this program, and I am. I mean, he has done some nice things with that program, and like you say, Paul, it's kind of been a process for him. He's it's been a building thing. He's got some hometown kids on that team, and brought in some nice pieces to fit in with them. But I think Western is probably here to stay the way it looks to me.
Yeah, and I'd be interested to know, Jamal Stevenson didn't start in that game for Western. He is normally and has been one of their starters. He came off the bench, had 16 points off of the bench, played 25 minutes. So, was on the bench for a little bit. He did start against Montana Tech on Saturday. So I don't, what that was or not. I guess it doesn't really matter. But Western, 4 guys in double digits. Jacques was 16, still the best name in the entire conference.
Yeah, you don't, especially when you're doing play-by-play, you can just say his first name.
So good, just so good. And I don't think I do. I think I have to say it twice. I think I say it both. But it's so good. And then you look at Carroll and what they bring this year. Andrew Cook goes 6 of 10 from the floor, 20 points. Johnny Hillman ends up with 19. Carroll was just lights out. They shot 58% as a team in this ball game. And truly, that's when you look back and go, it's 11 points to finish. Western had some shots. They were in this thing right till the very end. You're playing against a team that shoots nearly 60% and you have shots. That says a lot about the way you play the game of basketball for 40 minutes. So Western didn't, make too many mistakes. Both teams, let's see here. Carroll had 12 turnovers. Western had 13. So that's kind of a wash. Rebounding wise, Western had 24 rebounds, Carroll with 27 rebounds. So again, kind of a wash when it boils right down to it. That's a good ball game.
Yeah. Yeah. And Temple ended up with a double-double in that one with 27 and 13. But
he's
I think
tough.
I think the player that on the men's side that I'm going to keep an eye on this year is the Cook kid.
Yeah, you have to.
Well, we both saw him in high school, and
yep.
Boy, I think he's I think he's going to be pretty legit. I think he's going to be a difference maker in some games.
And I'll tell you the difference maker right now is Brendan Temple. Temple was just awarded the Frontier Conference Player of the Week if I saw right. He had a huge weekend, and right now he might be the post player in this conference. He reminds me, and maybe it's because of recent memory, but like Taylor England for Tech, who just graduated. Real strong, real physical. Doesn't get flustered, is able to kind of keep his composure in the block. Brendan Temple had a really big weekend for Carroll College, and if he's kind of if he's feeling it like that, and then he's allowed to kind of do his thing inside, he is going to wreak havoc in this conference.
Yeah, and I think that size, I've said forever, boy, if you don't have a big guy and a good guard in the Frontier, you're in trouble.
Yep. I feel like we have some real athletic post players right now that are kind of hard to mismatch because of their speed and their shooting ability. But Temple is he's a John Thatcher post player. I'm just going to throw it out. Temple is a John Thatcher post player. And that's how I view all post players. He's big, he's strong, he's physical. He'll put you on your behind if you get in his way. Temple is I think the powerhouse right now in the block. So we'll see what teams do to try and combat him, because you had better try and do something about him.
Yep. Well, let's jump into Saturday. We got let's just stay with Carroll.
Okay.
Carroll was at Northern.
Yes, indeed.
Temple gets another double-double there. I'll throw that out there right now. But wow, this is one that caught me off guard.
I think Coach does such a good job at Northern. They're always going to play great defense, and it doesn't matter who he has on the bench. They're always going to play great defense. But yeah, I agree. I think you'd have to assume that Carroll's going to go up there and maybe win a hard-fought battle. Northern gets a huge win in the Armory, and again, they were lights out. They shot 55% from the floor. Carroll shot 42% from the floor. I would love the one the number that never shows up on a stat sheet, especially with a Coach Hughes team. I would love to know how many shot clock violations there were, or how many rush shots there were because of the shot clock at like 2 or 1. That's a number that Coach Hughes has just destroyed everybody in. His teams always utilize the shot clock. They always force the other team to. And by the score, I would have to assume that's the case. Coach Hughes is going to be ecstatic about keeping Carroll at 62. That's a team obviously that can shoot into the 80s, 90s pretty consistently. And Northern in the Armory doesn't miss much, played great defense, and they get a big win. That's a nice win for Coach Hughes, and everybody's locked at 1-1 in conference after the weekend.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw out one thing for high school coaches, man. If you, with the shot clock coming in, Paul, I think Coach Hughes could make some money at clock management training for some high school coaches that are going to have to deal with the shot clock, because, Sean's just great at it. He just does such a great job at clock management in the games. But
and his teams are selfless. He doesn't have those guys that are kind of me, my point kind of guys. He always has guys that they'll get their points, but they're always kind of quiet. They're the defensive minded first, it always feels like, and boy, it has served him well. And I think this year especially, it's going to serve him well to find out who the first team in the conference is to get a win on the road.
That's true. That's very true. Well, let's jump Tech and Western.
Okay. How'd that?
Western getting 67, 64 win there. We talked about how Western's kind of been laying in the weeds, I think I could say, for the last couple of years. But I think that they somebody cut the grass and they're right up there above it now.
Yeah. They, Tech Western has been really good the last several years. It has a different energy about it. Whether it's the players or the communities or whatever it is, I'm not sure. But I'll tell you, Coach Larson has played Coach Hyatt really well the last couple of years. And they've come down to one possession ball games, and that's really what this was. It was another one where you look for Tech. Asa Williams has a big game, 23 points. Caleb Belich into double digits again with 15. Keely Bake off the bench, the young guard, with 8 points. Then on the other side, Stevenson with 19, Kai Kuba, the tremendous shooter out of Billings with 14. Michael Haverfield gets 10 in the ball game. It really was kind of a one possession ball game down the line. Turnovers. Tech only had 4 turnovers against Rocky. They only have 6 against Western. And normally that's another one where you go, well, a team only turns the ball over 6 times. They're going to win pretty handily. And it, just an absolute battle right to the final whistle between these two. And this is another one you're really happy that they get to play 2 more times. This at least 2 more times.
As a spectator, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as a broadcaster, I'm excited. I can't imagine Coach Hyatt is real happy about it. But
No.
it's another one. Trying to win on the road is just going to be awful this year. And Western in front of their crowd, that's a tough place to win ball games. And Western holds home. That's a big win for them, and certainly a great momentum jump for them getting ready for the start of January when we get back into it again.
Yeah, I was gonna pull something else up here. I'll get it here in a bit, but yeah,
Okay.
I mean, just another surprise on Saturday night. I just kind of rolled my eyes when I saw these scores come in.
I truly expected it to be. I think if you'd have given me the over under of like 6 points, I would have said under. Like I truly believe that game was going to be a 1 or a 2 possession ball game. In all truth, that I did feel that way, but on record, I would have said that I thought Tech would have won it. And well, I'll tell you, that's a great win for Coach Larson and Western, and they have the pieces. That's another one where, if you look at their lineup and you go, all right, Stevenson, maybe somebody will hold Stevenson to single digits or just a basket or 2, but one of the Haverfields is going to go off. That's all there is to it. I mean, the 2 of them, if they're both getting time, they're both getting minutes. One of them's going to start going off. One of them's going to start hitting those shots in the corner. And then it is just going to snowball for there. If you start getting on the Haverfields, then Kai Kuba is going to go off from the wing. They have shooters, and they have an arsenal of them. So trying to get out there defensively on them is a nightmare in my opinion. And Westerns, they're going to win some ball games.
How many threes did they put up, Paul?
That's a great point. Let me look. Western, as a team, was they hit 10. They were 10 of 37. So they had 37 attempts from the 3-point line.
Yeah.
Over basically double Montana Tech. Tech was 6 of 19 from the 3-point line.
Yeah. It's kind of I knew it was something like that. I couldn't remember it. When I looked at the box scores, I didn't write that down, but I knew that was a big number. Yeah.
And it always will be. I mean, all season long, it's going to be a big number. They're going to have a lot of threes. Some games, it's going to go down. Some games, it's not.
Yeah. Yep. Providence at Rocky.
Okay.
Probably catch some heat, but this one surprised me.
Okay.
It was. I'm just surprised at the differential, the final score, I guess, is the thing. But boy, the second half, Rocky just took off, and like you said, they shot. I don't know what percentage was, but they shot very well in that second half.
Yeah, and I thought I had it written down at one point, but I thought it was 60% or something in the second half.
Yeah.
I mean, they were just absolutely hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah, I probably have those stats here someplace, but for Providence, Milner with 21 and Vining with 15. And I gotta throw this in here about Sam Vining. He started at Rocky, and the
Mhm.
two Vining boys both playing here at the same time. I don't think I have ever had more polite and good kids to be around than those two
Yeah.
brothers. They were just two great kids. I talked to Sam a
Yep.
little bit before the game, and he was just being Sam. Boy, that step back shot from it doesn't matter whether it's from
Yep.
6 feet or 35 feet. It's got a pretty good chance of going in.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm with you. I'm a fan of the Vinings. I from high school, their years obviously in Great Falls through college, they are just a lot of fun to be around, and certainly they enjoy playing the game. And you can see it the way
Yeah,
they play the game.
yeah, yeah. But Nick Hart having a double double in that game. You talked about him a little bit,
Yeah.
how you like him. I've always liked Nick, and boy, just jumps out of the gym.
Oh, his athleticism is just off the charts. I mean, he
Yeah,
can jump, he can act, he'll get in and get scrappy with people, and then he has a great shot. I don't
yeah,
know, I just like his style of play a lot. And yeah, he had another good ball game. And what Rocky gets 4 out of their 5 starters in double digits, and
yeah,
the only one that wasn't was Jesse Owens with 8 points for Jesse. Yeah, that's you're gonna have a pretty good day at the office when 4 of your 5 starters are into double digits. Your offense is clicking.
yeah, yeah. Maxim Stevens, 21 points in that ball game. I believe that's his first start of the year. I don't think he started at Tech.
No, I think he
Um,
came in off the bench.
yeah, he's been injured. The poor kid's kind of had injury prone. The last couple of years, but it was good to see him kind of be able to come out. And I think maybe saw in this game what he's capable of doing if he's healthy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And hey, speaking of another guy he has a great shot. With his
Yeah,
size, you almost kind of expect him in the block a little bit. But boy, he has a great pull up jumper, and he can knock that thing down.
yeah. Well, Paul, what do you think of the Frontier Conference?
Hello. I think the women's, as we mentioned, is kind of shaken out. Maybe as we expected. It'll be interesting to see how this month goes. See how teams get through Arizona, and then once we get back into conference, I think you'll still. I think you're going to have a nice logjam in the middle. I think there's going to be teams that are going to beat each other up. But I think Carroll and Western right now are putting themselves in a good spot. I think Rocky is in an awfully good spot. We'll see how those three. I'm interested to see what kind of momentum all of them bring into January and who stays healthy and who's getting the most action out of their bench. But right now, for me, it's Carroll's to control as we get into January on the women's side.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. It's gonna be interesting to see the games that these teams play between now and January.
Mm-hmm.
Going to Arizona and playing some of these other teams. They're big name teams. I mean,
Yes.
they're not high school level kids. They're
Yeah.
they're they're national tournament NAIA teams, and it's going to be interesting to see how we stack up because I pretty much watched all the games on video on Thursday night and that I could, and then Saturday, of course, I was doing one, but and probably going to get beat up from this by you, but early in the year, I just don't think the quality is as good as what I've seen overall in the past, even if it is the first weekend. I just don't. I just don't see the quality that we have seen in the past. But me anyway,
Yeah.
uh, on both men and women, to be honest
Okay.
with you. And
Okay.
I think that maybe it's because we got so many new faces that maybe it's going to take some time for these teams to gel a little bit. But it's going to be interesting to me after saying this to see how teams play in the next 2.5 weeks.
Yeah. The it feels as though the level of play thus far, teams have stacked up pretty well with the other NAIA schools. I mean, Carroll
Yeah.
certainly has seen a lot of high-ranking NAIA schools already. Montana Tech's men went and played Arizona Christian, the number 1 team in the country. Lost by 4 points there. Um, Yeah, I agree. We'll see, because like you say, that Arizona
Yeah.
tournament is huge. It's always teams that we historically have seen in the national tournament runs. Whether on the women's side of stuff like William Jessup and Westmont, and some of those Texas teams that get involved, and the men's is going to be the same. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think the style of play is different from, in my opinion, than we have seen historically in the Frontier, but I tend to think that it's as good on the national level, personally. So
Well, yeah, and I didn't say that negatively
no,
towards the conference. What I'm saying is, if we are playing equally, or with those teams the next 2.5 weeks, I think we have a lot of room to improve, and I think we're going to possibly at the end of the year be a lot better than we
okay,
have been.
and
But
I agree with
at
that.
at this point, I just don't think that I don't know, from Thursday games, I just don't think I saw the quality that we have in the past at this point in the season.
Okay. The one thing that I will say is I feel like the starting fives are better than they have been. Historically, the teams that are on top,
Yeah.
I think of like the Western teams, when Coach Keller had his men's team going, and when the women's side, obviously with Coach Woolley, it felt like when our teams have been led by one out of this world athlete, that have
Right.
really led the charge. But then there is, and it's no disrespect to any of those players, but then there is a step backwards from that individual. It feels like now our starting fives are better across the board fully for me. And
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think that's where I think that's the differential. We don't have that one absolute lights out player this year, maybe. But I
Yeah.
think across the board, I think our depth, I think our men's depth beyond five is pretty crazy. I
Yeah.
think you're looking
Yeah.
at 7, 8, even 9 or 10 deep, depending on the program. That in my eyes is better than it has been on the men's side because of that depth. I think you're looking at guys that could be starting that are sitting on the bench that would have been not only role players but maybe even stars, a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. That could be just I don't know. Maybe I was just maybe it was just I
You
knew
just
it was
wanted to
gonna
fight.
no, I mean, I probably just knew it was gonna snow or something, and I was gonna have to shovel snow. That's the thing.
No, but I'm
And
with you.
that's
This
why
week,
I'm not in Arizona. See, I should be going to Arizona this week.
and I agree. That's going to be a great barometer for where we stand, and it always is. You go down
Yeah.
there, the level of play is incredible on both the men's and the women's side. We're going to get a really good look at where our programs stand once everybody gets back from Arizona.
So what do we do if we go down there and don't lose a game? Period.
Then we realize that we're an awfully good conference. And then we come back here and beat each other up.
Beat each
And
other up.
just like in football, one team will go to the playoffs or some
Yeah.
garbage like that, and we'll whine and cry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. But a lot of that comes down to what we talked about. I don't know if it was last week or a couple weeks ago, but you got to get to that 20 win mark to get in that national tournament.
Yeah.
That's almost the baseline. I mean, if you don't have
Yeah.
20 wins, you're not even going to get considered. And that's the thing, I think that's another reason this tournament down in Arizona is so important. I think those teams got to go down there and get 2 or 3 wins.
Yep. And I think you have to get in front of the other conference
Yep.
raiders. That's another
Yep.
really good, and that's something our volleyball programs have done for years and have done a good
Yeah.
job with. But you have to get out in front of those other conferences and show well so that they understand what kind of programs and what kind of basketball is being played here for the rest of the conference.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting. So is that
Agreed.
this week? No, it's next week, isn't it?
Next week. Yep. Next week.
Yeah. Yeah. So does Tech have games this week? I did
Off the
not
top
write
of my
down
head,
non-conference games.
I didn't either, to be honest. I know that the ladies have some time off, so it's finals week for the Orediggers this week, so they do have basically the bulk of the week off. I know the women are at the Grizz for an exhibition game, but on the men's side, I can go look, but off the top of my head, I just do not remember. Let me look.
Yeah,
here.
I know. Rocky plays MSUB this week, men and women
Okay.
both. So, but then they go to Arizona.
Yeah. So the men are in New Mexico. So they don't. The men are off until the 17th.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
I agree.
Anything to wrap us up with?
No, I think we're in good shape. I think that the conference is going to be a rip. And any guess who the first team to win on the road is going to be?
Let me see. Conference wise?
Yep.
I got the schedule here in front of me. Let me look. So coming back January 5th, Rocky goes to Northern.
Okay.
Providence is at Western, and Carroll's at Tech.
I look at all those.
We'll go to January 7th. We'll go to
That
January 7th.
Yeah, because I'm looking at all those going, yeah, the home teams, they're going to be very good games, but I think the home team should be able to hold home.
Yep. And then the 7th, we got Carroll at Rocky, Providence at Tech, and Western at Northern. That
maybe, and you're not going to like this, but maybe Carroll
at Rocky, yeah.
Maybe Carroll at Rocky
might be the first one.
But if Rocky plays like they did at home this week, then good luck with that too.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
maybe it'll stay this way all year. Maybe we'll just I don't know. I better shut up because I'm gonna say something.
We'll leave that alone. We'll just move on.
I was going to talk about soccer. I was going to talk about soccer there for a second, but Paul Andrews.
You broke up on me, Bobby. One more time.
Oh, why don't you go ahead and wrap us up?
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for Bob Ritterod, I'm Paul Panisko. Thanks for joining us on the Montana Sportscast podcast. And until next time, take care.